Greetings everyone, and welcome to today's seminar. Today we're going to be adding to our existing archives of base reviews with, of course, the new TRUMBULL Valley bases. Not only are we going to be reviewing these bases, but also looking at their efficacy. I'm Londononion.
And I'm Mascara Onion.
Junior, let's get started. So before we actually get into the base reviews and analysis, it is important that I describe the parameters of our discussion. In this Onion's opinion, the best purpose or goal of one's base, aside from having a place to gather and maintain one's survivors, is to build one's resource outcome so as to become self-sustaining or have neutral to positive gains every day.
Hang on, London. Wouldn't this ultimate goal of creating a self-sustaining base be dependent on the skills one decides to bring into their community?
Absolutely, Mascara, but the required skills will become clear as we go on. Quick disclaimer, ever since Update 25, outposts have changed the way one can acquire or prioritize resources, as well as the facilities one may want to build. But with all that out of the way, let us get started. The first base we're going to look at is Pterodactyl Park.
I don't really know if this one is worth considering, London, but it seems that every map has at least one of these spaces. Pterodactyl Park costs 500 units of influence and seems to be the token small base away from the tutorial base. It has 5 customizable small slots, 2 built-in small facilities, and 1 large slot. The built-in facilities are a latrine and 5 beds. Now, London, in your older base guides, you usually recommended going for bases that have at least 2 large slots. Is this base really worth getting into?
Fair question, Mascara, but let's speak on the base's efficacy first. Now guys, keep in mind this base only requires 4 people to move in, and still has room for 1 more, given the bedding perk it comes with. Now personally, I always recommend having a solar array so as to reduce one's cost on gas, which in the lethal zone is a frequently used resource without the most direct means of replenishment. Now, with 4 to 5 survivors in the lethal zone, one can expect to have a daily cost of 8 to 10 units of food per day, provided nobody has any positive or negative eating disorders. But given the size of the base and the amount of survivors it is meant for, 1 hydroponics with a compost bin and seeds could be enough.
Hold up, London. 1 hydroponics with seeds and a compost bin will produce 7.5 units of food. The only way this could be higher is if one has the agriculture skill, which will max it out at 9 units. Under ideal circumstances, you would still be at a -1 deficit.
This is true, Mascara, but this is where one's outposts may have to come in. 2 food outposts should be able to fix this problem, especially if one upgrades them, but that is up to the discretion of each individual. But carrying on, the other slots will be for a workshop, either level 3 or Red Talon, which should provide 1 unit of materials. Next, one can have a level 2 infirmary, and either a still or rain collector for base-wide water. Now, the last slot is where one can have options. This base does not have the greatest options for morale, so a kitchen is a worthwhile option, or possibly a watchtower if your survivors prefer it. Lastly, one could install a second hydroponics to maximize on food and possibly grow your own meds.
Alright, London, so there are a couple issues. With all this in mind, your hydroponic facilities and the potential kitchen will incur demand on building materials for daily upkeep. But let me guess, the outpost should take care of this?
Well, yes, Mascara. With only 1 large slot, a staging area is not possible, so outsourcing to material outposts are one's only option. Supplementing the other resources are up to one's outpost choices.
In regards to its placement on the map, it's close to other buildings with useful resources and has a slight north deviation from the center, giving it a bit of an advantage. Defensively, the base is a bit cramped, but it is possible to get to an elevated point for Overwatch if necessary.
Moving on to the next base, we're going to cover the Red Talon Forward Operation Base, or FOB for short.
This one is easily one of the more unique bases, but I'm guessing it is one you probably wouldn't go for. But anyway, it costs 1500 units of influence and requires 5 survivors. The base only comes with one open small slot and one open large slot, but it comes with a series of built-in Red Talon exclusive facilities and perks, such as the Red Talon Workshop, bunk room for 8 survivors, office quarters for morale, action speed efficiency, and skill building. There is also the Clio Relay, which is meant for calling in ammo and weapon drops for a hefty amount of influence, and a Clio Watchtower that provides threat reduction as well as a radio command for heavy sniper cover.
This base is definitely on the unique side, and some of the perks do make it look rather appetizing. Clio ammo and weapon drops pretty much put the best weapons in your survivor's hands, but it will come with a major siege. Combatively and defensively, one's survivors will be taken care of. My main issue, however, is the sustainability. The only facilities I could really recommend is an infirmary, and a farm, or a solar array. With the farm option, one will have to outsource their water from a water facility, which will stress one's gas. With the solar array, food will be severely stressed without ideal skills and circumstances. Virtually all of one's resources will be stressed without much of a safety net other than outsourcing from scavenging. Now, this is not to say that everyone should avoid this base, but simply it does not go in line with this onion's playstyle. Defensively, the base only has 2 entrances, but it is rather small and one can easily find themselves overwhelmed. Plus, it is deviated to the northwest wing of the map.
Well, I'm pretty sure some of those present may have their own opinions about this base. I mean, in order to actually repair the facilities to their optimal level, it does require the help of a free Red Talon agent, which is always a nice addition to one's community, and the missions associated with their presence shouldn't be too difficult.
This is true. The base has its redeeming qualities. It's just not my style. On lower difficulties, however, I would love to experiment with this base. But moving on. Next on our list is the Tranquility Factory.
The Tranquility Factory is another interesting base. It seems to be the morale powerhouse of the group. It costs 1,000 influence and only requires 5 survivors. Now, this base comes with 2 large slots and 4 open small slots. It also comes with 2 built-in facilities for boosting morale and creating meds. Additionally, one can use garden mods to boost the medication yields, but there is no passive bedding.
This base is similar to Pterodactyl Park, but sacrifices a small slot for a large slot and no beds, but more morale options. Now, when there are 2 large slots, typically I go for a solar array and a staging area to save on the demand of materials. Now, the remaining small slots will have to go toward the other typical necessities: 1 hydroponics, any level infirmary, a still or rain collector, and a workshop. Now, as far as food goes, in order to be in the positive, one must supplement with their outposts.
But London, this may depend on how many outposts one has. This base has no bedding amenities, meaning that one will have to outsource 3 of their outposts to beds and leave the last one to food.
In the event that one does not have a signal antenna or a signal booster, that will have to be the case. But this is why I recommend that one have at least one of those before moving in, or be in the process of crafting one. Having 5 to 6 outpost slots is ideal for positive gains every day. The base is located on the south end of the map with a slight western deviation, and is for the most part indoors. From a defensive point of view, there does not appear to be any major advantages or disadvantages. Without power, however, the base is painfully dark, which doesn't help during a siege.
Next up, we have Fort Marshall. It costs 2,000 units of influence and requires 8 survivors. The base has 2 large slots and 2 small slots with an array of other amenities. It comes with the level 2 infirmary, a kitchen, a watchtower, a latrine, a shooting range, and 8 beds. Now, this base is like the Prescott Fire Station, but for TRUMBULL Valley. But based on the available slots, this base may not hold all the facilities you prefer.
This base is nicely stocked, like a 5-star hotel, but as far as maintenance to the point of positive self-sustenance is rather difficult, and will require at least 6 outpost slots to achieve full neutrality with some positives. Now, there are 2 ways to do this, but one will require a sacrifice of what may be a necessary facility. That method will have a solar array, a staging area, a still, and 1 hydroponics. The sacrifice facility is the workshop. Alternatively, one can sacrifice the staging area for a farm, but with all the facilities repaired and running, one will be at a heavy deficit in materials and require 2 upgraded material outposts to supplement. Now, with 8 survivors and 1 food facility, another 2 outposts will have to be reserved for food. Otherwise, a second food facility, such as a farm, will have to be built and sacrifice the workshop anyway. A water/power outpost is an option, but the fuel offset will still require a demand for replenishment.
And as you said, fuel is already a commonly used resource and best used by other sources as little as possible.
Exactly. Now, carrying on, after the 2 material and 2 food outposts, one will likely have to go toward a medical outpost, while the last goes toward ammo. Fuel will be supplemented by the still, which is then also supplemented by one's food production.
Wait a second, London. When you first move into the space, all of the amenities require repairs. To minimize some of the costs, one can simply leave certain amenities dysfunctional, such as the watchtower so as to avoid the tax on ammo, or leave the shooting range dysfunctional to save on required materials.
Perfect addition, Mascara. It's always important when moving into a base to consider which built-in ones you actually wish to use, provided that they come broken. They don't have to be repaired, and if you know you won't use them, leave them broken and avoid the tax that comes with it. Now, the skills are naturally going to be important in this base. Chemistry helps with the still, computers to maximize outposts, electrical for the solar array, and agriculture for maximizing food production. The base is spacious, making sieges more manageable, but is located close to the Tranquility Factory on the southern end of the map.
Lastly, we have the Farm Compound. This base costs a massive 3,500 units of influence and only requires 6 survivors to move in. The base comes with a massive 4 large slots, 3 small slots, a built-in infirmary, a built-in kitchen, and 6 to 8 beds. Using 8 beds, however, will come with a morale penalty.
Now, for those that have seen my lethal walkthrough of TRUMBULL Valley, you'll know that this is easily my favorite base of the bunch. In this Onion's opinion, it is the slightly better developed version of Fort Marshall without any necessary sacrifices. It can fit a solar array, a staging area, a lounge, and a farm. The small slots could be used for hydroponics, a still for fuel production and base-wide water, and a workshop. The only supplementation this base may need is ammo, meds, and fuel. This base, like Fort Marshall, is also spacious and has areas for overwatch in the event one requires a quick escape from intruding Zeds while having good sightlines. As a bonus, the base is in the center of the map, with the only disadvantage being that it is a distance away from virtually everything else.
Now, London, I think it's fair to note that the predicted results could vary depending on the allies and perks one may encounter throughout their campaign, or perhaps even the hero bonuses of their survivors. Also, how would you rank these bases?
Absolutely, Mascara, thank you. Results will likely vary, guys, but on an additional note, the number of survivors and choice of skills influences everything. Personally, I don't recommend going beyond 6 to 8 survivors, but that is just this Onion's preferences. In regards to ranking these bases, I would definitely say the Farm Compound comes first in sustainability, Fort Marshall for second, Tranquility Factory for third, Pterodactyl Park for fourth, and the Red Talon FOB for last. And guys, I understand that my methods for surviving in these bases may be different from yours. Perhaps we look for different things, but I always welcome alternative perspectives, in which case, share it on the discussion boards and I'd be glad to read them. Otherwise though, that is all this Onion.
And this Onion.
That is all these Onions have to say. Thank you very much for attending today, guys, and I'll see you in the next seminar.
Bye everyone! I look forward to your posts!